Welcome to Wellness Owners. I'm Apurva Kulkarni. I'm an author, NLP wellness expert, and life coach. In my last video, I spoke about kinds of stress, that is short term and long term stress. In my today video, I will speak on are some people are susceptible. Why I took this topic is I are some of them are worried and waiting for negative things to happen, and some will get stressed out for small things, and some are thinking that after everything something bad will happen. So I decided to speak on are some people are more susceptible. There are still much research required to assess whether some people are truly genetically predisposed to stress, and if so, by how much. There is some evidence to suggest that this may be the case since, for example, research demonstrates that mothers who experiences extreme stress while pregnant passes on an excess of stress hormone to their unborn child, which in turn make the child less tolerant to withstand the stresses. Therefore, it doesn't mean reasonable to make the assumption that there may be an additional genetic component that have not yet come to light. However, number of factors associated with unhelpful experiences of stresses. These are family history, stressful events, thinking style, poor coping skills, individual personality, and lack of social support. Even the genetics go on to discover other biological factors that predispose an individual towards stress. It is important to understand that a predisposition doesn't not have to be a life sentence. For example, an individual could be predisposed towards a condition such as heart problems. However, if the person eats well, exercise, and lead a healthy lifestyle, they may never go to develop the diseases. Therefore, it is important to recognize that even if some people are more deposit towards the stress, this not necessarily mean that they will automatically be a victim of their predisposition. A study in which they looked at all the available research on genetic predisposition. They concluded that in the worst possible cases, it was likely that only 50% of difficulty would be emanate from genetic deposition, while 10% of difficulties would be put down to the life events. Even if we take the 60% as a true figure, it would mean that there is a 40% of chance within the individual control. Stresses that the 50% and would be the worst possible case scenario. Most people are not going to fall into the worst case scenario, and therefore you are more likely to have 60, 70, or even 80% and going for you, and that the genetic component is much smaller than anyone would think. I don't know about you, but if I were a betting person, I would be very happy with these odds, as they would suggest that far more in, is within my control than not. Family history. Research tend to show that stresses and the inability to deal with the stresses often run in families. As yet, no one really knows how much this is due to genetic influence and how much is down and to learning unhelpful behavior and self-defeating thinking style from the family members. Even if you are born into a family, those members are predisposed to stress. It doesn't mean automatically it means that you are doomed for life to become stressed person. Much of our behavior is learned, and a behavior or a way of thinking can be learned, it can be unlearned, and new behaviors develop if the individual is prepared to put some work on it. Stressful life event. Everyone experiences stressful periods from time to time. Sometimes these events take the form of job loss or relationship problems, or it may be also an health problem. Any event where we feel threatened is likely to induce some kind of stressful feelings. Psychologists discovered that even pleasant experience such as having a child or gaining new position or gaining a promotion and would be a stressful as they also contain changes. Too much changes, even positive changes, requires a degree of emotional readjustments. Thinking style. Who think in certain ways are more likely to feel stressed. Such thinking style include the ability to discount the positive, always putting down or dismissing anything positive that is said, or maximizing negative events by adding overly or dramatic way of expression. Particularly beliefs about justice and fairness, and that there is a strong link between and what you think and the mood you feel. The more negative you are thinking, the more stressed you are like to feel, particularly when the thoughts are based on threats or an injustice. For example, worked hard and was doing well in her job. She put in more hours than her colleagues and had recently been promoted. Everyone viewed her as being very fair and approachable. Her new manager was someone with a reputation for being difficult, and it seems to Rose that she could never do anything right to please her new manager. However hard she tried, she found herself putting in even more hours and never getting any recognition and praise. After a year, Rose found that she was exhausted and experienced intense feelings of stress based on her sense that what was happening was just not fair. Many people may feel that Rose had a point. She was working hard and doing good at job. However, had Rose stood back and assessed the situation and not expected her manager to the same for her, she would have realized that her manager had a completely different personality and that the best way to deal with the situation was depersonalizing it, not keep on trying to gain her manager's approval, but continue to do good job and become more assertive in her communication and more realistic in her attitude. Poor coping skills. You will have some excellent coping skills that you can call on when you need them. For example, you may have learned that dealing with the things that need to be done rather than just thinking about them decrease your feelings of stress as it gives you a sense of control over the situation. However, most of the people have some coping strategies that are unhelpful, such as drinking, smoking, or eating too much as a way of comforting themselves. Individual personalities. Your essential personality type is likely either to help you or hinder your when it comes to dealing with stress. In the late 1960s, cardiologists discovered what have become to be known as type A and type B personalities, and more recently, a third group has been added called as Hardy personality. A type A are ambitious, competitive, hard driving, and more likely to ignore the stress symptoms. Although the type A's have a tremendous capacity when it comes to the energy and drive, and are often seen as highly productive by those around them, they tend to go down rather spectacularly when they become overloaded. Type Bs are more laid back and find it easy to keep matters in perspectives, whereas the hardy personality type seems to have all the attributes of type A but without a susceptibility to stress. One of the classic symptoms of stress A is irritability and anger, and even the most characteristic and normally stable type A characters can be prone to angry outbursts over a small of issues when they are stressed. Having said that, it doesn't mean that the type B or the hardy personality characters do not get irritable or angry. He too, they do. However, they are less likely to be so and more likely to take action earlier to deal and with whatever is getting on top of them. Another personality factors is whether you believe that your actions can make a difference. Are you a kind of person who sees yourself as having a choice and some control over what you do, or do you see yourself as always having to deal with force outside your control? This type of approach to life is known as your locus of control. Studies on which date back to the 1960s. The term locus of control describes the degree into which you believe that outcomes results from your own behaviors or from force that are external. People who develop an internal locus of control believe that they are responsible for their own success. Those with an external locus of control believe that the external force, such as death, luck, determines their outcomes. Typically in life, either the extreme end of the spectrum will cause the problem. If an individual believes that everything is within his or her own control, then when faced with a situation that no one would control or influence, if she or he may find it difficult to accept the reality, experiencing extreme distress as any attempts to change the situation fades. However, if you believe that everything is outside your control, then you may not take action to help yourself when you could, and simply attributes events to fate. When we are stressed, as with anything else in life, it is important to appreciate and recognize what we can and what we cannot control. It is helpful to take action that will be useful. However, sometimes there is nothing that can be done, and on the occasions, it is important to ride out the storm. Social support. Over the years, research has demonstrated that people with good support system in the form of family and friends are far more likely towards of the effects of stressful situation. The more people we talk to, the more we are protected from the full effect of dealing with the stress on our own. Lack of social network really shows that itself in a time of crisis. Very often, simply letting off a little steam of friends or loved ones early on can prevent the buildup or the pent up emotion that can later lead to an increase in the stress related symptoms. Other forms of support. Notwithstanding the importance of social support during the time of crisis or when we are experiencing stresses, it is not common for individual. Find it difficult to think clearly. Even when help is available, an individual may be too busy trying to cope on daily basis and not always seek help early enough. By the above information, I hope you got some ideas on how to manage your stresses by understanding is the stress you are feeling is from your family history or the stressful events, life events, or thinking style or poor coping styles or individual personality or the social support and the other forms of support. If you like this video and want to know how to lead stress-free life, then subscribe my channel Wellness Owners and press the bell icon for more update. Thank you. See you in the next video.